Hello.
Hello, Mr. Sampath.
Hi. Hi.
Hi. Yes, so we're just waiting for everyone else to join in and then we can start
Sure, sure.
shortly.
No worries. I was basically logging in 5 minutes earlier to see whether there is any technical glitches.
Right, of course. Hi, ma'am.
Hi. Hi, Mrs. Shenoy.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
I'm Vishant.
Chatushka, you'll be asking the questions one by one, right?
Chatushka is yet to join, ma'am. I think he will be connecting now. And yes, he will be the moderator for today.
So what's your name?
I'm Parami, ma'am. I'll be hosting and
Yes, ma'am.
handling the technical side.
So, Mrs. Shenoy, you're at home, right? Working from home. So, what does Sam? Unfortunately, I'm at office.
I just came home because we had several meetings and things, so it's easier at home. The Wi-Fi is a little easier than at school. So I just finished off another meeting 10 minutes ago. So
Excellent. Hi, Chatushka.
Hi, Nayani. How are you?
Doing good, doing good.
Hi, Sampath. Hi, Mr.
Hey,
Noy.
hey, Jessica. Good. I've been sitting on this chair for a long time. I wish I can go to office like Nayani, but yeah. All priorities have changed. Earlier, it was all business calls. Now it's all on oxygen and oxygen concentrators and helplines.
Yeah,
Things have changed. Real career pandemic.
exactly.
Right. So now that everyone's here, just give me 1 minute to set up the Facebook Live and then we can kick things off.
Okay.
Oh, great.
I'm not able to hear Parami very easily. Are the others able to hear her clearly? Maybe I'll need my headphones.
Yeah, I think the headphones help you to cut off the other disturbances in case if you're not in a kind of a soundproof area or something. My ones are a little bigger, but I'm comfortable wearing this.
Parami, can you say something, please?
Hi, ma'am. Can you hear me now?
Say that again.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, little better now. Yeah.
Okay.
Will there be questions from the audience? No.
There will be. So if there's any questions, Mr. Noy, I'll trigger it once it's posted on
They'll
Facebook.
put it in the chat.
Yes. So I'll be raising it. I'll be asking when the questions are triggered.
Okay. Do you think should I keep the camera on the landscape or the portrait? Because if we keep it the other way, it might be that I'm talking. Should I try that or is this
better,
fine?
no? Since everybody
This is
Yeah.
All right,
Much
so
better?
the live stream is also up, so we can actually kick things off now. So a very good evening to all of you. Welcome to the career pandemic, a discussion on how the pandemic has affected the job market and what we can do to improve things. My name is Parami. I will be your host today from Chocolate Magazine. And before we start, we have a small word from our partners for this webinar.
What I'm about to tell you could change your entire life. This is a place where you meet the world. A place that will inspire, challenge, and shape you. We stand on a path to discovering some of the greatest adventures of your life. It's a place where you learn how to be the best and sit back in awe as the people you meet inspire you to spread your wings, to reach higher, go further, laugh louder, and launch yourself with the right start into an extraordinary future which will take you places. Start your journey to a world of possibilities at UCL.
And that was our partner for today's webinar, UCL. And without further ado, I will hand over the proceedings to our moderator for today. Chatushka, you can go ahead.
Thank you very much, Parami. Good evening to our elite and eminent panelists. It's an absolute pleasure and privilege to moderate this discussion on career pandemic. As you know, the pandemic has been a complete black swan event, unprecedented in nature that no one imagined, which has had global implications. So the new variant has been detected, which is highly transmissible, that has given rise, unfortunately, to the third wave of COVID-19 in Sri Lanka, and the general public has been urged to strictly adhere to the health guidelines and restrictions imposed. The topic today in discussion is a pertinent topic with the focus on adapting to the new career normal and making the right choices in education with the changing corporate environment. Interestingly, we have three key personalities sharing their perspectives today, which we all look forward to. A big shout out to our exclusive partner UCL, Universal College Lanka, for organizing and sponsoring this webinar. Before we commence this much anticipated webinar, there are a few ground rules which I wish to bring to your attention. For the audience that has tuned in for questions, please post questions in the comments section and it shall be read out to the panelists. If your question has been already answered during discussion, kindly refrain from reposting the same question again. To our esteemed panelists, I shall be reading out the questions and giving the opportunity to each panelist to share their own perspective. There will be general questions directed to have the perspective of all three panelists and simultaneously more specific questions related to each one of you. A time slot of 5 minutes will be allocated for responding to each question. We would appreciate your kind cooperation and adherence towards time. So without further ado, introducing our distinguished personalities for today, Ms. Naini Costa, Head of Marketing, Universal College Lanka. Good evening, Naini. Thank you for joining this webinar.
Good evening, Chatushka. Thank you.
Ms. Vinitha Shenoy, Principal, Gateway College, Colombo. Good evening, Ms. Shenoy. Thank you for joining this webinar.
Good evening, Chatushka and the other panelists. Thank you for inviting me.
Mr. Sampath Trimavitharana, Associate Director, Human Resources, Virtusa. Good evening, Sampath. Thank you for joining this webinar.
Good evening and pleasure to be a part of this, Chatushka.
Great. So let's dive straight into the questions. So my first question, I'd like to direct it to all three panelists. Skills today could be irrelevant and redundant in the near future. In your own perspective, what skills could possibly be in demand in 2025, in the next 5 years? What are some of the skill development initiatives that have been undertaken by you as an educator or as a corporate? So I'd like to start with Naini, if I may.
Well, Shatushka, like as a higher education institute and a leading institute, it was a great responsibility on our shoulders as to how our future generation would face this. So in terms of technology, I would say the most required skills would be technological skills and communication skills. Because now today, as you see, we are using a technology platform, and the communication skills have to be very sharp. And also we should be able to clearly communicate, not that talk, communicate. And also we should be able to use our technological skills to the advancement of it. And UCL, I must give a brief introduction. We affiliated to University of Central Lancashire. And when students join us, they become internal students. So anyway, it had been a practice that we have been communicating to our UK partners via a platform called Blackboard, so using the latest technology. And the students have been used to it. But with the pandemic, I think they got more accustomed to it, to more frequently use the platforms in technology and sharpen up their communication skills in order to communicate their project work, assignments, queries that needs attention from the main university in the UK. So in my perspective, I believe technological skills and communication skills would be the key facts in terms of skills in this situation.
Thank you very much, Nani, for sharing that feedback. Mr. Noy?
Well, I must start by saying, or rather repeating a quote from our founder, Mr. Hiatus. He had said several years ago, a child who leaves our gates leaves as a confident, compassionate citizen who has the ability to move around in society, one who is equipped with the skills of surviving in this complicated world. Now, he has said this several years ago. And today, the world is really, really a very, very complicated world. The pace at which the economic change is taking guarantees that a single degree or qualification earned in the teens or for the 20s will no longer be sufficient for their whole working life. In fact, many research says that students who are graduating from high school today will have as many as probably 15 to 20 different careers in their lifetime. The troubling part is that we have no idea what those many jobs will be. But we keep hearing that jobs will be lost in the future, but as an educationist, we know that many more will be created. So let me just repeat one thing and say that, let me tell everyone that we are not preparing students for their future. They will decide their future. What we need to teach students is to evaluate their judgments. They need to understand their skills. They need to understand their intelligence. They need to understand their attitudes. The jobs which can be done by machines will be replaced by machines, by computers, by artificial intelligence, name it. But the jobs which cannot be replicated will be personal skills, ideas, and creativity. So the jobs of the future will be in creativity and in collaboration and in problem solving. Now comes the part. The new technology that is moving is so fast. We don't know exactly where we are going. What we do know is that we need to prepare children, we need to prepare students to be able to be agile. They need to be able to move quickly. They need to be adaptable. And what we need to teach students today is those very, very important skills of creativity and collaboration and problem solving, inculcated or infused in the subjects that they are doing. Because that is what will take them, that is what is going to help them to be prepared. And 2025 is just a few years ago. I'm talking about 2035. Even then, things are going to be so different. And we have those children with us today. They are the ones who are still with us, who will be out there in the job market in a few years' time. So we need to get those kids ready. We need them to be able to think on their feet. No more just a degree is going to land them a job. Employers want to see what you can bring to the table. So I think for 2025 or 2035, it's those skills that need to be taught to the students.
Thank you very much for that captivating response. Sampath?
Yeah, so I think I would like to kind of agree with Naini as well as Vinita. So in my view, if I reflect, I think before the pandemic, it's just now we are almost like 2 years into this, right? A little less than that. So we were on that path. We were talking about digital transformation, and I think Ms. Vinita spoke about agility, even project management, no more like a these waterfall methods. We were talking about agile, the project management, things getting changed and things like that. It was just that change was very slow because people were living in that mindset. And I saw somewhere saying that the pandemic was the biggest, the change, the agent or whoever, which has happened to even corporates, because what was supposed to happen in 10 years or 5 years, we have to now do it within, very short time. So in that context, if I sum up, I also a strong believer of this, not believe actually, this was the real practicality as well. The adaptability, which Ms. Vinita mentioned, as well as the learnability, right, as a skill. Now see, now I'm actually overlooking talent development function, within our company. And in this industry also. Now earlier, if I look at how we used to upskill, cross-skill and reskill, employees, we had enough time to, set up curriculums and, prepare lesson notes and develop content, and to kind of, deliver these programs. But now the things are that the tools are like, getting added and changed every 3 months, every 6 months, 12 months. Your new frameworks are getting added. So there's not enough time even for us to like, really kind of, plan and, kind of put these programs in place, because the reason is the change is so fast. The structured, type of upskilling is not anymore feasible at a scale, right? I'm not trying to say it is going to be kind of, completely go away. No, definitely it could be there in higher education and, in secondary, tertiary education, and there's some level of structure. But I'm talking about, as Ms. Vinita and Naini mentioned, when you are out from your degree, the very first job that you do, what you have learned in your first year or the second year might not be there anymore, the tools. That's why it's very important you have your fundamentals right? Even I think she mentioned about, certain new areas like artificial intelligence or machine learning or whatever, right? Data science, all these new buzzwords could come. Yet the foundation principles, if you learn and you have the skill of learnability, very quickly adapting and quickly go research, be curious and, upskilling yourself, I think that's the skill that is going to stay. And also while agreeing with the rest of the other things like the soft skills and the communications and various other things which we would be able to talk later. But I think if you ask me as a one-liner, I would say it's the adaptability and the learnability is the biggest, greatest skill that you need to master in this context.
Thank you, Sampath, for that valuable insight that you shared. Moving on to my next question, I'd direct it to Naini. Considering UCL as a higher education provider, what are some of the tech-related courses which are available at UCL? And also in terms of opportunities, what are the opportunities that are provided for students to get a feel or a flavor and understanding and also exposure in the industry. If you could just take us through some of the industry placements that UCL would offer as well, I think that would be beneficial.
Yeah. Yes, Chatushka. Now, whilst agreeing with my fellow panelists with all their viewpoints, I must say now change is inevitable, and it started taking place no sooner we step onto 2000. So technology changes every day. So as Sampath very rightly said, adaptability has to be there in utmost. So as a responsible institute, we select our courses very carefully. So that is one of the reasons that we work with the University of Central Lancashire that has been established in 1828. So this year they're going to be 193 years. And they carefully select the modules that comes into the degrees. And like I would like to mention here that I believe we have one of the most diversified modules when it comes to our software engineering degree. So now, as Mrs. Shenoy said, that students need to get into many areas as much as possible. So when a student does, since the question for me as to what are the technological programs that's at UCL, we don't do many. We don't get into niche areas because we don't know what would survive in the future. Because nobody can say, you know, you do networking and mobile computing, or you do software engineering, that you will have a future ahead of you. So therefore, we prepare students to hold a position, whatever years it may be, or wherever they go, with knowledge. So therefore, we have a wide spectrum of modules when it comes to the software engineering degree. So it is BSc Honours Software Engineering, what we offer at UCL. It's an internal degree from University of Central Lancashire. So in this degree, we prepare students to face challenges without minimum supervision when they are recruited in organizations. And I believe inevitably every degree would give you knowledge. But what is required is how you put it into practice. And you should be able to do it without hesitation. And all organizations nowadays, I believe, when you recruit a student, you want them to perform yesterday, so that they should be able to take up challenges, communicate properly with their fellow colleagues, and show a lot of professionalism and use technology. At the same time, adaptability should be in utmost. So having said all of that, in spite of the knowledge that we provide students via the software engineering degree, we provide them with a lot of soft skill aspects. So our software engineering degree is not just based on a yearly measured examinations. So every module goes with assessment of examinations, assignments, and presentations, where their knowledge is always put into test. So with that, we believe that we, at any time of life, any year, like it could be 2025, 2035, whatever the year it may be, we are producing a futuristic, holistic professional from UCL. So therefore, I would like to say the students are equipped in all aspects of skills, and they are taught on challenge taking, as I mentioned before. And then UCL has a industry placement year embedded in the degree, where students will get a flavor of what their skills would be, and how their skills would be tested, and how their knowledge would be tested prior to their graduation year. So they come out with a lot of confidence as holistic professionals into the industry.
Thank you, Naomi, for sharing that holistic perspective. We've just got one question coming in. We've got a question coming in from the online audience, so I'd like to give priority to that. The question is, I'm still studying at school. What sort of extracurricular activities would be an added bonus when applying for a job? So I'd like to direct this to Sampath.
Okay, it's a question very close to my heart. Okay, because the reason is I'll just give you with an anecdotal. I'm reflecting my childhood. Of course, uh, I was actually taking part in debating in Shakespeare drama, and all these oratory competitions in school, and in fact. Vinita mentioned about RIT Alice. He was my principal also, not at Gateway, but the other school he started. and basically, if I reflect back, of course, your A levels, your degrees, all these things have helped you to navigate through your career, get your first appointment, and you to climb up in the ladder. But when I look at really where it has made a real difference in the area that I am involved in right now, actually it's that extracurricular activities that I did, the oratory competitions, the drama competitions I got involved, and also even for some extent chess. I've loved chess, and I think Vinita mentions about decision making and kind of strategizing, problem solving, all those things. I think mostly it came from those extracurricular activities that you did, and I'm just reflected only few. There's a lot to mention. So having said that, I think that's a great question, because now they say even if you want to do mathematics, there is a strong link between mathematics and music as well, right? And if you really look at producing music these days, there's a science behind it. There is basically patterns. It's all about patterns. If you go to these softwares, it's all about creating patterns. It's all about the rhythms, the cadence, and it's all involved mathematics, right? So for your question, I think those extracurricular activities that you do, whether it's taking part in as I mentioned, certain to do with like this oratory or debating, or even if it is as I mentioned, any sort of a game like chess, or even if you are playing cricket or any other thing that gives you leadership skills, right? Because and working in a team, and these days these are like the skills, and that's why there's a special kind of value being placed on someone who has done like a team sport, right? Because they know because business is also a team sport. It cannot be played alone, right? And if you come up with that person as I'm the smartest person in the room, it's not going to work anymore. So for your question, I am not going to tell you what hobby or what extracurricular activity that you should do. It is something that you should be passionate about, right? And some might be passionate about fashion designing. Some might be in kind of cooking, right? Or baking. I cannot basically tell you or be prescriptive what you should do. It is something that you would really love and that you are passionate. But all what I can tell you is that is going to definitely help you in your career, even if you're going to be an entrepreneur, or even if you're going to basically take a formal career, as an employee. Okay, so that's my take on that. Again, let me not saying that you should play badminton, or please go and do kind of something else, because it's something that you like to do. But definitely what you do as an extracurricular activity is going to definitely help your career. That's my take on that.
Thank you, Sampath. I believe you've responded to the question in detail. Thank you for your response. And yes, we have an interactive audience. There seems to be a lot of questions coming up. The next question is, while in school, how best is it to gear yourself to face the future of new opportunities? I would like to direct that to Ms. Shanoy, if I may.
Well, as I said earlier, we are not preparing students for their future. They will decide their own future. What we are trying to tell students is to evaluate their own judgments. Even in reference to the question earlier, I would like to say that the future is uncertain. Neither you nor I know whether the next year we will still be in lockdown. Hopefully not. Keep our fingers crossed. We'll be learning online or what it will be. But what I would like to tell students is to understand their own strengths and weaknesses. How would you know your strengths and weaknesses? It's the activities in which you become, now say for example, the activities in which you become physically tired, but psychologically energized, much more than before. These activities will be your strengths. The activities that you genuinely enjoy doing, make you feel energized, make you forget the time, you look forward to, and you can do well even under stress and fatigue. Activities that deplete your energy are referred to as weaknesses. So how would you know now? How would you know what are your strengths and weaknesses? I would say that you could identify your strengths and weaknesses as my previous panelist said. I cannot tell you what to do and what your future will be. What I can tell you is try and understand yourself. Take some online courses, participate in a workshop, physically or online, volunteer for a charitable community or an organization, and reflect on that. Reflect on what you learned. See the new skills or competencies that you have picked up. One understands themselves much better, and therefore you can look into the future on those career lines. In fact, this clarity of what you like and what you can do will make you feel like a warrior. It will make you feel always ready to take things on. I would like students to understand that they need not to go by what everybody else says. I do hope that you choose to live by choice, not by chance. And if you choose to listen to your inner voice and not random opinions of who is saying, which panelist is telling you what, it's what you feel. It's not the random opinion of others, it's your own. So it helps you to take a step in the correct direction. You should be able to, even at a school level, you should be able to take as many subjects as possible. Now, for example, at Gateway, at the IGCSE, or what you call O levels, at the IGCSE, we ask students to do anything between 11 and 14 subjects. Then in many schools, that may not be the norm. I know definitely it's for certain that we do offer or we do request students to do many subjects. Many people protest, but our chairman is definitely a visionary. So he thinks forward, being a medical doctor as well as now coming into education. His view is that at the IGCSE level, you have a maximum exposure to different subjects. If you choose or if you narrow down your choice at IGCSE, then later on in life, you have only that limited choice. So make the maximum, do as much as possible, take part in many extracurricular activities. Let yourself flow into what you like. I call myself a gardener because I love gardening. I always wondered, how did I get into education? And then later on, I realized that there's so much of similarity between gardening and education. Both you nurture, both you grow, both you love to see the outcome of it. So to me, understand your own abilities. Don't follow blindly what anyone else is doing or what anyone else is telling you to do. I hope I answered your question.
Absolutely. I think so too, Ms. Shanoy, because that was a very open and honest answer. We will appreciate that very much. Thank you again. So moving on to the next question, I'd like to direct it to Sampath. Comparing Sri Lanka on a global scale, there are countries where children, or in fact students, enter the workforce at a very young age. It could be part-time work, it could be internships. This trend is not yet evident in Sri Lanka. what do you see as the difficulties and limitations? Do you encourage students starting off work at an early age?
Yeah, so the problem is twofold, right? So I think for your question, the answer is yes. Basically, my personal view is yes. You have to no matter how much I always say fundamentals and your theories, whatever your models, what you learn, your base skills, these are all important. But at the same time, when you're really practically trying to do something, only you really know whether those things are going to really work or not, right? So in that context, I would say absolutely it's important. And you ask, it is in other countries it's happening, but it's not happening in this part of the world or in Sri Lanka probably, right? But I think that is not that's not entirely true, because I can remember one of the panelists here also, Nayani, got in touch because she's at UCL. She was trying to actually kind of even ask from our company whether there's a possibility of study and work kind of a model can be put it in, which we are very positively looking at, and the companies are also looking at that. So let me tell you, certain companies still think in that old school, traditional method of that you need to have like a degree and you complete your degree and then you will be recruited kind of. So it's partly the corporates or the organizations will also have to evolve and be more progressive. That's the first thing. That problem is with the employer, right? And on the other hand, as I mentioned, but increasingly now from Virtusa, now we also have something called Campus Reach. And for Sri Lanka, of course, I overlooked that. What we do is, because we know no matter how much we are trying to push this, it's sometimes difficult from a university perspective for you to change your curriculums every 6 months or every 1 year. Usually it takes about 4 to 5 years because there's a lot of protocols and a lot of these things involved. So, but I should be very appreciative of these local and private, in the sense government and private universities. They're very keen to kind of even start kind of delivering these tools, techniques, frameworks, industry experience and all those things at a very young, at a very early stage in these programs as well. And also earlier it was the internships was at the fourth year, right? You do 3 years and the 4th year was supposed to be the internships. Now you can see certain, the universities, they actually give you internships at the 2nd year, or some give it at the 3rd year, and they can continue to work in that organization, rather than having a break. So there are multiple models coming into play. And from the the graduates' point of view also, they have to understand. Sometimes now I can be very kind of give me a little more time to explain this. Sometimes the students also think these internships and these working opportunities, they just do it for the sake of doing it. They think that for the degree, we want to basically go do some internship, get something filled like a field book or some sort of a log, and then give it to the university, and then I'll get my degree, tata bye bye. So that's the type of attitude and the mindset they have. But I always used to say, no, that's not the case. So you also have to start working very young as as internship. So whatever the model could be, right? It is part-time or gig. There's something called gig work also these days, right? You can work places online. I will not go into detail about this. There are multiple models evolving. But what you need to understand, I'll speak about the internship model. I think it's very important that the students also take it very seriously and start learning, grabbing, absorbing, and have that complete, focus when you're doing that as well. Otherwise, what will happen is it would be regarded by the corporate sector also, or in this case, the employer also. It's the non-value adding function that you do, right? Because as you know, the businesses are not, there's a CSR that you should help these youngsters, but they are also looking, everything is a business interaction as well, activity as well. So definitely there are things that needs to be done from the employer's aspect, as well as the students' part, as well as the universities or the education providers as well. Together, we will have to solve this problem, right? If there is a problem. But the positive news here is, Chatushka, it's changing now. I can see, as I mentioned you, the education providers are changing their thinking. At the same time, the employers are also trying to catch these ones young, right? Catch them young and watch them grow is, there's a talent war. Okay, I'm not gonna say at this moment we are actually fighting with so many companies in order to get these bright sparks, right? And it is from the students aspect as well. They also have to be serious about this as well. So that's my take on. I hope I answered your question.
No, absolutely. Thank you for sharing a holistic, well-rounded perspective, and thank you for that insight again, Sampath. My next question, I'd like to direct it to Naini. There's a very similar question that has come up online as well, from the online audience that has tuned in as well. What would you consider as the minimum requirements for enrollment in a course at UCL? Does the requirement vary from course to course? And you're on mute.
Sorry. So I totally agree with what Sampath has been telling. So we provide opportunities for students to start higher education at a very early stage. So it's optional for them if they want to continue with their A-levels to do so. If not, get on board with a foundation and start the degree early and complete the degree early, get on board with an organization and start pursuing a career. So, with that, I would like to mention, so we encourage students, if they do not want to, I must categorically say, if they do not want to do their A-levels or pursue A-levels, they should definitely have a different option. So some students fail A-levels, so they fall back in the option of getting into a degree or start a degree from O-levels. So thereby, if a student is planning to join, I'm sure at this moment, a lot of students must be watching us, the parents who've got their A-levels results yesterday. So not passing A-levels is not the end of the day. So you can start off a foundation, and for the foundation, you can start off with O-levels results. So we only require 5 simple passes with 2 credit passes for mathematics and English in order to do the foundation. And also, I believe doing a foundation which will always give an edge to a student. One thing, they're starting early. The other thing would be you get a prior orientation to your degree. So when you do a degree, you must know about academic writing. So when you do a foundation, you're taught on how to do your academic writing, and it polishes up your presentation skills. As I said, especially a British degree will attest you on many areas like presentation, assignments, and exams. You're not only tested on your knowledge, you are tested on how you apply your knowledge in a practical scenario. So you're taught in a foundation in very early stage as to how you could put all those things into practice. So thereby, so if anybody is willing to join a foundation, so it's with O-level results you can join. 5 passes, 2 credit passes for O-level English and mathematics. And then if a student is joining after A-levels, we require, if it's a national stream, we require 2 simple passes in the mainstream. And also if it's edXL or Cambridge qualifications, it's 2 D passes. There are E passes, which is marginal, but we don't accept them. It's 2 D passes that is required to join UCL for the degree programs. So those are the requirements basically.
Thank you, Naini, for your response and feedback on the requirements. My next question, I'd like to direct it to Mr. Noy. Considering life after school, considering career guidance as well as mentoring sessions that are available for students to map the courses they decide to pursue following the completion of their secondary education, what kind of support has been extended by Gateway International?
Sorry, were you talking about what support for students?
Yes, that's right.
To future their careers. Now in school, of course, we have a career counselor, we have an emotional counselor. So to take care of the emotional aspects of the students, we also have somebody who will look after their, career paths. So looking at both those aspects, very important aspects of the students, we firstly emphasize that every teacher is a counselor. Every teacher should be able to guide the students. Every teacher should be able to support or be a scaffolding for the students, so that even if it's a subject-wise, like subject-wise, also teachers should be able to open paths or open vistas for the students, make them aware of careers in the possible subjects that they're good at. Also looking at, when we are talking about career, I said we do have a unit which does career counseling. We have one person who looks after all the schools. We are a group of 5 schools, and each school has their own career counselor. Students go to the career counselor or they speak to the different teachers to help them to understand what they want. Now, I would understand that students sometimes are very focused and sometimes they are very distracted. So making students choose their path is, I think, something important that happens in a school rather than at a little later day, because of course there are many institutions who would like to support the higher education, but whether it is for in certain universities itself or just helping the student develop their own passions, I'm not so sure. In school, I think the teachers, the counselors know the students a little better, and therefore it's very important that the counselors in school get the students to understand their goals. Right from the little younger classes, may not be the A-level classes, maybe even a little earlier, counselors should be able to or do promote, suggest different careers for students. Now, I would say that for adults as well as for students, the ignorant of the future is someone who cannot learn, relearn, and unlearn, because everything is changing so fast. The more inspiration, they need more inspiration than information. I think information is available everywhere out there. Whatever you want, you type it in, you get. So information is out there to guide the students to take what is best for them, to take what inspires them, to take what would develop them and what would differentiate them from the others. So there are kids who would, there are students who would, I keep saying kids, I'm sorry, but I should say students. There are students who know exactly where they want to go because they have been told over the years, you are going to become a doctor because your father was a doctor and your mother is a doctor and your grandfather was a doctor. And so that child knows that all that he has to do is become a doctor. But he's a painter. He loves his art. So he's torn between both, but he knows that he has to be a doctor. How do we help such a student who's torn between different ideas of what they want to do? It's not easy to be cut and dry. So you have to advise them to help them develop themselves. The school is a place where the students get a maximum exposure. That's why I was telling you previously, we don't decide the future for the students. They decide it themselves. We just guide them into what is best, what they would be best at. So it doesn't happen at one stage. If students, what I generally advise students about the career is that have a screen on your computer and put down what you think you would like to be. So just have different pages. Then look at where do you want to go? To which country? Is there any country specific you want to go? Check out the universities which are offering what you like. At the same time, look at the cost. match it up with what your parents are able to support you with. Because children today have very high dreams. Because everyone else is doing it, I must do it. I know of parents who have sold their property because they need to send their child to go abroad and do a degree. Now, I don't know whether that's the best advice. I would advise a student to see what's the ROI, what's the return on investment. If they are going to spend so much of money on a degree abroad, are they going to come back and earn that kind of money in the country? So it's not necessary. I think Sri Lanka itself has many institutions which could help students to go on their further career path. So as a school, we just advise them to help. Like I advise them to make their own decisions too. So when they have this screen on their computer, they keep adding on. They keep adding on the career, maybe this, maybe that. Okay, which university could I go to? What are my entry requirements? So the entry requirements, they have to start thinking quite early. They cannot look at it once they're already in the A level. So they have to start looking at the entry requirements a little earlier, maybe even before the O levels. They start thinking what would be the entry requirements, and then work towards that. Work towards that. Match what they can do, what their parents can support, and where they would like to go. So as today, because of the pandemic, many students are doing online lessons. So the charm of going to a university, meeting different people, experiencing different cultures has all diminished. So students are making choices of whether they need to go abroad or whether they need to stay back in Sri Lanka and do the degree here. So these are things which, again, as I said, I do not like to tell children what to do. I like to show them a path, or rather open doors for them so that they can decide whether they would like to go into that door or whether they would like to take something else.
Thank you, Ms. Shenoy, for that captivating response that you shared. My next question, I'd like to direct it to someone. We see a trend amongst millennials and Gen Z where they shift jobs, they shift careers, in particular where they move from one career, from one job too soon, focusing on probably promotions, instant gratification, and also short-term gains such as pay hikes and so forth. Could you highlight the importance of building a career and experience rather than pursuing instant gratification?
Okay, so I think it's breaking up a little. I think what you're asking is, rather than jumping from one job to another, and to look at a longer term career, that was the question, right?
Yes, that's right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but I also wanted to say that we all do this research, right? They talk about baby boomers and Gen X and Gen Ys and millennials and Gen Z, all this research. So I think things are changing. So if you ask me, if I reflect what my parents did, and should I do the same thing? Because my father was telling the same thing to me, now my first job was in a bank. He said, now for the rest of the life, you have a career, you can become a bank manager and retire. And that's a very respectable job. So after 2.5 years, I quit. And at that time in 2001, now you will guess my age also now, 1997, after A levels, I joined this bank, and 1999, I quit. At that time, I was getting about 16,000 rupees, and I actually quit and joined a job which gives me 9,500 rupees. And he just told me, you're crazy. But when I look back, but he still supported me, right? Because the reason is, he said, it's what you like. I'll support you. No worries. I'll give you. So because what he was thinking about a career and what I was thinking about at that age, 1997, 1999, was different. And when I reflect back, I'm so glad that break, I don't call it a break, going from 16 to 9, but obviously that company introduced me their technology, sent me for foreign training, gave me a lot of exposure, as Vinita and as Naini said, and I got much, exposed. Now, the same way, I don't think what I did should be done by this next generation as well. So obviously, now you don't have these probably step by step, longer term careers kind of thing. Maybe the new tendencies that you move, right? And also the boundaries are also getting blurred now. Tarushka, it's like, those days we were in silos, but now everything is, getting blurred because of the technology. And as I mentioned you earlier, music is not anymore playing an instrument. It's now technology. Fashion designing is not anymore just, designing something. It's technology, right? So these things are, and also recently somebody was asking me, even, the playing games. Somebody was, one parent was saying, my child is playing games, and what should I do about it? And when I asked from, he was known to me, I asked from this child, and he said he loves gaming and he wanted to be involved in a gaming, industry. So obviously you can't be playing second generation games if you wanted to be a disruptor in this industry, right? So having said that, I always used to say, but one thing I agree with you. There's something that I always believe, that is, now, if I anecdotally again, take it as an example. Now, all the people who are watching this, the youngsters, they might like certain, achievements, right? Maybe to purchase a sports car or to build a house or something like that. But you will always see, the moment you get that, you will have that gratification, and after 6 months, that will be an old car. You will not anymore have that dopamine rush, right? Oh, I'm going around in this car showing off, and everybody is looking up to me. They, all this stuff, right? Actually, it's that 3 years or 4 years or 7 years. It could be even 2 years. The journey, what you did in order to get that, unless otherwise you're so lucky that your dad or somebody basically gifted you that. Your career also, you should look at that. You have some sort of a passion. You wanted to be at a particular place. So it's not always the destination, it's the journey. And then that journey might take 7 years. That journey might take 10 years. That journey might take you there in 1 year, right? So it's not about that 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, right? It's just enjoy what you're doing and ensure what you wanted to achieve in your life. Be passionate about it and enjoy the journey, right? It's that you will enjoy, because whatever you achieve will stay for a very short time, and you will be looking at the next, the milestone, right? So that's what I have to, in short, say for that, Chazushka.
Thank you, Sampath. Indeed, insightful and inspiring perspective that you shared there. Thank you for that. We have another question I'd like to direct to you as well, which has come from our online audience. What kind of jobs are available now in the new normal? What kind of jobs are available now in the new normal?
Do you want me to try that?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So see, I'm working for Virtuoso, so I may be a little biased towards technology, right? But that's a truth also, because the reason is we all now use these online platforms, and these on-premise servers and all these things are moving into cloud, okay? And also like banks are moving into digital platforms. So obviously, it is obvious, and it is a reality. Everybody can see that there is a huge demand in the future in this space. But then again, look at this pandemic, right? We're talking about medical equipment. I'll tell you, in the morning today, the biggest problem today in the morning that I had was actually to get down oxygen concentrators. All the places it's ran out, no stocks, right? And we are getting prepared, just like if in case there's a emergency or something, to get ready. So what is the meaning of that? That means your vital signs monitors, the demand has gone up. It was earlier was in an ICU only, right? Now it is becoming an household. Even the companies are looking to purchase them, right? Earlier we had this, the sugar monitors and what you call these wearables and all those stuff, right? So you can see the medical equipment, wearables, then biotechnology, all these tests and rapid antigens and the PCRs and all these things have become immediately like, the thrust and like critical areas, right? It was anyway critical, but you can see how demanding it is, right? And people are all fighting for vaccinations. People are, and also look at the data. Now the telcos, telecommunications will have to think about scalability. Earlier, they were thinking about providing data for a company and charging a premium, but they have to now think about what? Giving data to everyone, right? Even for villages. And how can we make that 1 GB as affordable as possible for these people, right? So see, the pandemic has, as I mentioned you, it will have short-term impacts as well as long-term impacts. Short-term, these new things will get created. Of course, it might be a sudden spike, right? It might die down later on. But look at this. If we do this for about 2 to 3 years, Chatushka, the behavior is also going to change, right? Now, earlier, I used to go to the bank. At least 2 times I used to go to the bank, right? But now I did not hit the bank for so many this thing, and I'm doing everything online, okay? Because I would call myself a semi-millennial, right? So it's not like the real guys. I'm sure the millennials and the Gen Zs will never make a call to the bank. They will always try to do it through WhatsApp. But I'm still, and what is going to happen now? Of course, even the pandemic goes away, I'm not really going to go unless otherwise I'm so bored and I want to go ahead and have a chat. Maybe that's also a possibility, right? Now people will start appreciating how important for you to go and talk to somebody in a counter. Earlier, you were not even happy going there. But I would like to take Vishnoi's perspective here. We don't know. Maybe people will start appreciating that personal touch more than, after the pandemic, because people are now losing, human beings are unsatisfactory creatures, right? When you are having work, you are unsatisfied. When you don't have work, you're unsatisfied, right? So we have to have this moderation. So in my view, I think what we're going to say is it will create, the new opportunities I told you in new areas, as well as this permanent behavioral changes that is going to take place, like in online food ordering to online transactions to, even governments are now, they were for 70 years, they were not changing, right? They were not thinking even to have certain things on virtually, but now they're thinking about running courts virtually. Judges are on Zoom calls now, right? And our tea auction is now online. They're doing this stuff. I saw they have even asked for bids to automate the the train seats and the bus seats and things like that, right? And people are doing these days all buses. I'm doing a construction. The boss is now telling me, you send me your quotation or everything on WhatsApp. They don't even want to talk to you now, right? So the thing is, definitely these behavioral changes are going to create, new opportunities for all of us. So these are the thrust areas that I could see. But again, unpredictability, uncertainty, VUCA world we call it, right? Vulnerability, uncertainty, ambiguity. This is what is going to be the future. And your preparedness, your adaptability, and your learnability is what is going to really tackle that situation. Be ready for it. That's my take on that.
Thank you.
If other panelists have any other views more than to share, thanks.
Thank you, Sampath. Indeed, insightful question and insightful response. And I think we've got a lot of interaction from the audience as well. Just before we wrap up the webinar, there is a question in conclusion that I would like to ask, and I'd like to open up to all the panelists. How would each one of you personally think that good education can lead to one's success in their corporate journey? And also, if there are any sort of concluding remarks, final advice that you may like to share with the audience.
I didn't get your question, please. Can you just repeat that?
Sure, Ms. Shenoy, sure. So in conclusion, the question is, how would each one of you personally think that good education can lead to one's success in their corporate journey? Any other concluding remarks, final advice that you may like to share is also welcome. I'd like to start with Naini, if I may.
Yes. So, well, if I may say my viewpoints, first of all, I must tell, Sri Lanka has always been a trend follower. We have not been trendsetters. So from the early days, from my education time, the parents have always been watchful, and if they see a successful student doing some particular course, that was the one that they would push their kids to do. So like the other panelists said, parents encourage the kids to get into their professions, go in the viewpoint of as what they think is the best, and they talk to opinion leaders who are in different professions and get an idea. But then I must mention here, people have different viewpoints. So based on the ages, the eras, they would give their opinions. But then I must say that UCL has taken a wiser path on that. For the simple reason that we want the students to get the best education and get into best job opportunities, careers, according to their choices. So that is the very reason why we have embedded an industry placement in the third year. So, and I'm like, very impressed of that thought of our directors. One of our founder directors is Dr. Harsha Alas. So it's a very wise decision. So what happens there is the students would go through a curriculum or modules during the first 2 years. In fact, the father saying the student, okay, I'm a finance person, you do finance. If the student believes after doing the first 2 years of the modules that the student is better in doing brand management, so this allows the student to take a call on that when they go into the industry placement. So during that 1 year industry placement, not only allows the student to understand whether he or she fits in that particular career path, but that gives them an advantage of having bargaining power when it comes to final decision making on what career that they are choosing or getting selected to an organization. So that is a plus point when it comes to UCL education, that every student is benefited by UCL offering them an industry placement and them going through that, so that it kind of give them confidence to work. And as everybody has been talking about adaptability, it supports the student to adjust their minds to an organization in such a young age, so that they are not hesitant to go to any other place and see what that has to offer, and get mingled, like to mingle with people. Because otherwise what will happen is you're a fresher just after your degree and you go to a place, you're scared by the professionals surrounding you, and you wouldn't want to talk about your opinions, your thoughts will not come out, your creativity will be hindering. So all those facts will be taken care of when you go into the industry placement. So my viewpoint is always don't be hesitant to take a call on what you want to do, but then choose wisely. So we are stepping forward into a information or data era, or rather we are already in that. So always do your homework first. Please make a phone call to your higher education institutes if you want any advice. UCL is always willing to give career guidance, so we're just a phone call away. So please do your homework right and choose a higher education pathway which supports your career, and do not follow other people, because one's career may not suit you. So you may be having different opportunities, options, but if you don't choose wisely, you will not be able to successful in your own choices. So that's what I mainly want to tell the youngsters.
Thank you, Naini, for your final advice and concluding remarks. Mr. Noy?
Well, when the COVID descended upon us like a swarm of locusts, there was no road signs to help us to navigate which direction to go. We didn't know whether to drive on the right-hand side of the road or the left-hand side of the road. In fact, we just didn't know where we were supposed to go. But it all comes down to leadership. Now, our leadership, if I must repeat again, leadership is not to eradicate uncertainty. It is rather to navigate it. And that's exactly what our chairman, Dr. Alice, said. He, with his foresight and his vision and his never give up attitude, he catapulted us far ahead from the others. Ours is definitely a 21st century school. We are also a Microsoft Showcase school. And if you have heard what Abraham Maslow had said, at any given moment, we have two options: to step forward into growth or step back into safety. Now, when the pandemic kind of ceased a little bit, it became a little calm, many people were talking about going back to the normal, because the tried and tested methods are very comfortable for everybody to follow. But we did not do that. We adapted a hybrid method where, classes could happen online, offline, asynchronous, just to keep the momentum going. And it was not before too long that we were slapped with the third wave. And again, we went back to teaching online, keeping students engaged, keeping students aware that learning needs to happen. It's not teaching, it's when a teaching. That's another thing which I would like to add here. We were all talking about the frontline workers, the doctors and the nurses who did so much. But I would also add on this platform that it was the teachers who really gave it their best. They all woke up, they all banded together, and they took up new skills. Many teachers were not used to teaching online, but they banded together. We had different sessions, teachers working late into the night, supporting each other, coming up with new things, because we felt that the student cannot lose. So keeping all these policies, whether it's Edexcel, whether they will change the curriculum or whether the government will change the curriculum, it's not really in our hand. But as a school, we are looking towards the future. And we amend our policies so that we are able to inculcate skill-based learning. Assessments are made with less pen and paper. There's more creativity, there's more activity-based. And at the IGCSE level, we support all learners by offering them academic subjects. Besides the science and the business and the maths, we also allow them to opt for art, drama, and sport. At the A levels, besides again the science and the maths and the humanities and business, we also have psychology, law, BTech, sport, and added now is drama. All this plethora of subjects help students to have a wide basket, to be able to choose something which just fits them, because one size does not fit all. We want students to know that they do not need to follow the crowd. As Nani was just saying, we have a tendency where people want to do what everyone else is doing. But I think now we are better informed. There were times where people were not better informed, but now we have information, we have advice at the tip of our fingers. So I would like to say that students really, really need to make choices which suit them the best. As a school, we are making it a possibility for students to think and to think loud, to think differently, and of course, to challenge themselves. Because the pandemic has taught us that we just cannot wait. We need to get up, take the baton, and run. I think it's in the hands of everyone to make things happen. We just cannot afford to, sit and wait and watch. In fact, if I can take another 2 minutes, can I just read out a poem kind of, which it's a very famous poem, which I have changed it a bit, adapted it a bit.
Yes,
You've all heard about the, sorry?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Noy. Yes.
The poem is Don't Quit. You would have all heard about that. So I'm just going to read it. I have added a few points. It says, when things go wrong, as they sometimes will, when the new normal makes you think, when the 24 hours you have is just not enough, when friends are there only on screen, breathe if you must, but don't quit. Life is queer. with its twists and turns, so much fun, but also so much pain. To watch the scores and scores of people lose their lives, but we have stuck it out, so breathe for another day. You don't live life just once, you live it every day. But you die just once, so add life to the life you live every day. Often the goal is nearer than it seems, so kick the ball in or dunk it in. You will eventually have it in. Often all that we need is to fill someone else's cup to double one's joy from within. Learning the new normal is tough to begin, but hygiene is not more important, no more a good habit, it's a survival skill. Success, like happiness, you cannot chase after it, but if you can learn, relearn, adjust and adapt, the new normal is just in your lap. Success comes not to the strongest or the biggest or the fastest, but to those who can bring a smile to another's life. So stick to the fight when you're hardest hit. You have another chance, so give it your best. Let today be the day you love yourself enough to no longer just dream of a better life. Let it be the day you act upon it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shana. Indeed, thank you for your words of wisdom. Thank you for the visionary perspective that you had, that you shared. It was indeed a privilege to have you as one of our key panelists. Sampath?
Yeah, I'll keep it very short. My final, the remark would be: see, in situations like this, anyway, we are. If you look at our media or our, I'm not trying to be critical, but our country, we are very prone to this negative news, right? So we have been talking about this all the time. Now, these are the times that you will have all these negative, the news and the points of views and all those things will flow, right? You go to social media, you will hear every day. I actually go into these news channels. They always say, okay, yesterday it was 1,200 cases, now it's 2,000. Yesterday it was 7 people who died, this time it is 16 people. Somebody said, okay, their government is not giving the right information, it should be 35. This is not only in Sri Lanka, this is in India, various other places as well. So these are the times where you will hear negative news, but we all know when we keep on hearing, just like somebody said, that you say the same lie over and over again and it becomes a truth. I think it was Goebbels, the theory during Hitler's time. When you start hearing negative things over and over again, without knowing, your your belief and your positiveness, your optimism, these things are getting impacted, and those are the things really going to drive you forward, right? So my sincere request for everyone, especially students, parents, anyone who's joining, yes, difficult times, yes, it's a pandemic, and I may be comfortable comparatively to some who's watching this. I am not trying to not be empathetic. I'm being very empathetic about their situations as well. So let's help each other the way that we could, and also try to do what we can do for the country and for our organizations, for the rest of the others. At the same time, have this sense of optimism, right? Because if you look at each and every time something has hit like this or any other thing, as a country or as globally, people have come out with that optimism, right? So you should never give up. So I think that's the first thing, whether you are a student or a parent or an employee or an employer, that you will have to have that optimism and look for that silver lining in that, the dark cloud. That's my final comment, Tashus. And thanks so much for inviting me.
Thank you, Sampath. Thank you for the inspirational concluding remarks. So that wraps up the webinar. I am extremely thankful to panelists for the valuable insight and information that they shared on the webinar Career Pandemics. On behalf of Chocolate, we would like to wish you all the very best in your future endeavors as educators, as corporate professionals, as well in your personal capacity as well. We're thankful to the viewers that have joined in this webinar as well. I'm Chaturya signing off from Chocolate. Have a great rest of the evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Venita. Thanks, Naini, for your insights.
Everyone.
Thanks,
everybody.
Chaturya. Thanks,
God bless.
Chocolate.
God bless. Bye.
Stay safe.
Stay safe.